Welcome back to another episode of Way Too Wifey. I'm your host, Respectfully Gabby, and in this podcast, we talk all things dating and relationships in this modern day. And if you are new here, hi, I'm Gabby. I'm an online dating coach where I help you transform your confidence to live your best lives inside and outside of relationships. It all starts from within. If you are not right from within, you are going to attract chaos in your love life. I can guarantee that. If you're not right from within, you're going to keep attracting the same kind of partner. You attract what you are, and if you're not okay, baby, your love life is also not going to be okay. With that being said, I do have an 8-week program coming up. I'm starting back up in January. I do have a few people already signed up for that. So if you don't want to miss that slot, I do it in 8-week jumps. So if you don't want to miss that spot, hit the link in my bio, book a discovery call with me, and I will tell you all about it. Everything that you need to know, okay? I also do one session, so if you're just like, I have this one specific situation that I'm working through, Gabby, please help me. I am here for you, and we can talk about it. We can do video, we can do no video, whatever you want to do. And then I also have a write-in option. I have been getting, lately, my DMs have been absolutely blowing up, and I'm sorry I cannot get around to every single one of you. The best way to reach me, if you want to just write in and ask about a certain issue that you're having, a certain problem, whatever, hit my Stan link in my bio, and there is a write-in option on there. Use that, because I cannot get around to all the DMs. I'm so sorry. I love you and I want to help, but it's really hard for me to get around to all of them. I am so excited to talk about this today, because this is actually, every time I make a TikTok video on this, it just seems to get it gets a lot of attention, and I don't know why I have not yet made a podcast episode on it. But I'm talking today about dating effectively. When you're going on these dates, are you asking the basic questions that we all ask, and it's boring, and it feels like we're moving through emotion, and it doesn't feel like we're gaining any type of connection with this person? It's just so where are you from? How many siblings do you have? What's your favorite color? How long have you lived here? Like, those questions, cool, whatever. But I can tell you right now, the more dates you go on, those questions just keep getting repeated, and it feels like you're living in this loop that isn't going anywhere. And you aren't actually connecting with that person because you're asking these really surface level questions, or they're asking these surface level questions. And then you leave the date and you're like, I don't think there was a connection. There wasn't a connection because you didn't try to connect. I want to talk about that. Effective questions that you could be asking on these dates, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in an order of you ask this and then ask this and then ask this. It's not an interview. The last thing you want to do is have the date become an interview where you're asking all the questions and they're not asking anything to get to know you. Like, that is so important. And I myself, just because I feel like I can talk to most people very easily, I feel like I'm always the one probing, and I'm curious, and I want to know more about you, and like, that's just naturally who I am. But I've learned throughout my dating experiences to take a step back and allow the man to lead in like asking questions, be curious about getting to know me, because the more you allow him to ask questions about you, and the questions that he's asking are going to tell you a lot more about how interested he is in actually getting to know you. I'm going to break it all down. One thing that I always try to do is to be intentional about where I'm placing my time. If you are going on a date, you are giving that person your time that you will never get back. So maybe they're not your soulmate, but maybe that person leads you on to your soulmate. Or what if that person teaches you a lesson of what you still need to heal inside, or they teach you a lesson about, hey, there's this really amazing quality that this person has that I never really thought about, and now moving forward, I'm going to be looking for that quality in whoever I do decide to end up with. So take something away from every single date that you go on. Again, you don't want to feel like you're moving through the motions, because you're never going to get anywhere. So start asking more intentional questions when you are on these dates. And again, if you're the type of person to ask 1,000 questions and they're barely getting to know you at all, take a step back, ask like one question for every few questions that they ask about you. That is my biggest tip, because I fall into this trap a lot, and then I have to catch myself, and then I'll go back to not speaking as much, and allow that person to pick up the conversation. Allow that little bit of awkward silence, right? If they don't care to ask you any questions, like they'll come up with something. Allow them to come up with something. Well, that person probably is like, oh, I love this person. This person did so good. I loved talking to them. But really, it's because they talked about themselves the whole time. But then you walk away and maybe you had a good time, which a lot of times I do have a good time. Really, that person didn't do anything to get to know you. And realistically, if they have interest in you, they're going to be curious about getting to know you more. Here are some questions that I have wrote down on the plane back and thought might be good questions to ask. And again, you don't have to ask them in like a sequential order, and it doesn't all have to be on the first date either. Ease into it. One of the things that I've done is really get clear about what are the, let's say anywhere from like 5 to 7 values that you really value. Like one of the things that I really value is loyalty. And I know that this is one of my values because it is something that would trigger me or piss me off when someone isn't loyal. And if there's ever a time where you're like so triggered by a situation, it always comes down to what you value. Say, for instance, your best friend cheated on her boyfriend and it really just irritated the fuck out of you. It's because usually, I mean, like, if you break it down and you get to the very core of what is bothering you, is because she showed signs of not being loyal. So loyalty would be a core value of yours. Or kindness. This is another one of mine. If someone is like super disrespectful, super mean, just like an awful person, honestly, that's going to turn me off. And I'm just going to be like, I cannot with that person, like absolutely not. Regardless of like if it's a platonic friendship or a romantic relationship, regardless, if that person's a mean person, I just don't want to deal with it at all. It would actually frustrate me in a certain sense, maybe not like all the way, but it would not sit right inside of me if I was hanging out with someone that was mean. With all that being said, get to where your core values are and really think about this. When was the last time you were triggered or pissed off or like something really irritated you or didn't sit right with you? Get down to that, write down your values, and then from there, when you are going on these dates, keep those values in mind. Is this person that you're on a date with, are they displaying the same values? Because I can guarantee you, if your values do not align, you are not going to align long term with that person. It's just not gonna fit. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've tried this before. If one of your values is kindness and this person is mean to the waiters, they're mean to the staff or whatever, just random people on the streets, if they are just a mean person and you value kindness, these are things you need to be looking out for. A lot of them aren't going to be so direct, but keep this in mind when you're going on dates, because if you think that something's out of alignment, it probably is. Questions to be asking, and I think some of these questions I've thought about like in terms of questions to base my values around. Not all of them. Some of them are just like getting to know you questions. Okay, if family was one of my values, like I really just like valued my family time, I valued close relationships with family. One of the questions that I would probably ask is, what's your relationship like with your family? Instead of asking, do you have siblings? Is there a follow-up question like, oh, like tell me about your family, or like, are you close with them? Like what? Give me some kind of in-depth something, because if you're just like, yeah, I have a brother and a sister. Okay, what's your favorite color? If you're just going through questions just to get through questions, you're not gonna feel connected to that person. So answering those questions like, oh, well, like I have a brother and we're, maybe not that close. They live in wherever, and I just got another nephew from him, and I'm like really excited to see. Like, give some more in depth of your dynamic. Have it be a little bit more of a story, because you can walk away from that, say like, oh, I have a brother and a sister. They're going to walk away from that and probably forget that you have a brother and a sister, nor do they care that you have a brother or a sister. It doesn't matter. But I feel like the more you display, the more they're going to remember those details about you and your life. Answering is just as important as asking the questions. So how you're answering the questions is very important in order to build a connection, because you're not going to build a connection by just surface level yes, no, boy, girl, whatever. Just have some like conversation. It shouldn't just be question. Moving on to other questions. This is the most important question that you need to be asking on the very first date, not even dates down the line, because fuck that. Get straight to the point, because if you do not get straight to the point, you are going to waste your time and you're going to probably end up in a situationship. So ask this question: what are your intentions in dating? There's so many different ways you can ask this. How they answer this is going to tell you a lot about where their head is at. For example, I went on a date with this guy in London and I asked him, like, what are your intentions in dating? Like, why are you on Hinge? And he goes to me, well, you know, I really am just loving my life right now. I want to travel and like do my own thing. But you know, if something came along and like I found someone that like wants to travel with me and wants to like do life with me, like that would be great. But I'm just like, I really love like my own space and like I love hanging out with my friends and like doing what I'm doing right now. Translation, guys, he's not looking for anything. And I think the old Gabby would be like, oh, like the only thing that I took out of this conversation is that you're open to finding the right one, and if it's me, then that's great. Like maybe I can prove to him that I am the right one. And I think that's where a lot of us go wrong, because in translation, he gave me a reject sandwich. What do I mean by that? He first said, oh, I'm not open. Yes, I am open. No, I'm not. If their answer seems like it's confusing, if they seem like they're unsure, or it makes you feel like you're unsure about what it is that they're actually looking for, I can tell you right now, they're probably not ready for anything serious. It is what it is. I'm enjoying my time with him. We did end up hanging out a few more times, and I knew in my head that it wasn't going to turn into anything serious, and we're still cool. There's nothing against him, but I just know that he doesn't want anything. I know in my head to not waste any emotions on him. It's more of like a friend, we can hang out, whatever. Be very careful about how they answer this question. If they're like, I really am looking for someone, I want a partner, I'm really looking for a relationship, here in his answers knows what he wants and knows what he's looking for. These are green flags. And a guy that's like, oh, you know, like I'm open to it. If they're open to it, they're down to fuck, but maybe not wife you up, okay? You got to read between the lines sometimes with guys, because they're going to tell you in a really soft way. And if you don't pick up on the hints, then they're going to be like, oh, well, I told you I wasn't looking for anything serious. And then you're going to be like, what the fuck? That's not what you said on the very first time when I asked you. And then we get into this like, oh, well, fuck them. So many different ways they can say this, to where if you feel unsure at all, if you feel unclear about what they're really looking for, I can tell you right now, you're probably going to be wasting your time. A guy that is clear, a guy that is sure will make that very clear to you, okay? Another question I really like is, what's something that you're really proud of? Also say like, what's something that you're proud of in the past week that happened. That gives them the space to talk about something that they're really like feel good about. And if they're feeling good, they're gonna feel good about you, you're gonna feel good about the situation. And I personally love asking this question, because I love hearing people talk about what they're passionate about. If they light up when they talk, like I love listening to people that are excited and interested about something. Like if they're passionate about something, that's so sexy to me. Love asking that question, what's something that you're proud of? Because let's face it, that they're going to talk about what they actually want to talk about in that case, and then you know what's important to them. So one of the things that I really value is someone who is growth minded. Like I need someone who is focused on their own growth. If they are not focused on their own growth, and I feel like I am growing every single day, I'm changing, I'm investing in myself every single day. So if that person does not have a growth mindset, it will not work long term, because they're going to stay stagnant and I'm going to be elevated to the next level. And it just, like attracts like, I'm not going to be attracted to them down the line, because maybe we're at the same level right now, but I can guarantee you, if I'm growing and you're not, there's going to be a discrepancy down the line, and it's just not going to work long term. So one of the things that I value is growth. One of the questions I like to ask specifically, and maybe this doesn't matter to you as much, and maybe if that's the case, don't ask this question, throw it out. But what's something that you've been working on specifically to self-development? Because The reason why I also think this question could be important, even if you don't value this, if they're not working on themselves at all and they think that they're perfect the way that they are, they're very likely to not take accountability for the things that they've done in the past or their actions, period. You're not working on yourself at all is just concerning to me because we all have things we need to work on. If they can't answer this question for me, I'm just like, okay, never mind. Next, how would your friends describe you? The reason why I like asking this question is because sometimes you're like, how would you describe yourself? It's hard because you're like, oh, I don't want to come off like I'm cocky or arrogant and saying all good things or whatever. But if you put that same question into the hands of their friends, they're looking at it from a different point of view. And I think those answers are usually a little bit more honest than if they were to answer just like, hey, well, how do you think about yourself? And it's also sometimes a little awkward, like, hey, what do you think about yourself? It's like, I don't know how to answer that. So if you say, how would your friends describe you? I can guarantee you it's so much easier to answer, and they're gonna tell you exactly what it is. Well, next question, I love asking this, is who is your favorite person and what do you like about them? This is gonna tell you everything. First of all, it's gonna tell you who they value the most, why they value that person. And if it's their like mom or whatever, my heart is already gonna melt. What do you like about them? They're gonna tell you qualities that they appreciate, and then see if those qualities match up with you and if you also appreciate those kinds of qualities about someone. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but I feel like if they can't answer this question, like I'm thinking back to like really just awful people that I've dated and thinking about if I were to have asked this question to those people, their answers probably would have been like, oh, like myself, or I don't have a favorite person, or I don't know how to answer that, because they really just don't have close relationships. And if someone can't hold a close relationship with someone, it's kind of a red flag. If they don't know how to do it. If they've never done it, how do you expect them to hold a close relationship with you when they're so used to living their lives on their own and like that's all they care about? Next question. What is something you don't spend enough time doing that you'd like to have more time for? You're going to know right away what they value the most. And to take it a step further, if you're a guy and you're watching this video, say this is her answer. I really love dancing. I don't spend enough time doing that. I want to get back to whatever. Next day, you have your date already planned out. You guys are going dancing. Allow that person to have their time to do that, or like do a kind gesture. Say the guy's like, oh, well, I really don't have enough time to spend with my mom. I really want to spend more time with her, and I feel like I haven't been able to prioritize that. When you guys down the line are dating or whatever, use this in your back pocket and be like, you know what? I know that you don't spend a lot of time with your mom. I know that's something that's important to you. Why don't you take the day and spend some time with her? And just so you know, they will appreciate the fuck out of this. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is give that person space to do what they want to do. They, in turn, are going to love you so much more. That break that they've taken from you in order to like hang out with their friends or do this one thing, that break that they're taking might be like, wow, I really appreciate them giving me the space to do this and live my own life. That makes me love them so much more. So keep that in mind. I also think that this question, you really get to know what they value in their life and what's important to them. Another question, personally, love traveling. That's something that just lights my soul on fire. And I'm sure many of you also, I'm not like, this doesn't make me unique at all. I understand that. But one of the questions I love asking, it's like, I think a lot of people ask like, oh, like, do you travel? Or like, what's your favorite place that you've been to? Which are fine questions, whatever. But a question that I love asking is your ideal vacation or holiday. Okay. What is the setting and what are you doing on vacation? You will right there know if you guys are vacation compatible. I think that this is important for me to know, because if I'm like, oh, what is your ideal setting? And they're like, I want to go to the middle of nowhere and where it's super cold and super snowy and I want to ski and like I love skiing and I love going to those. I'm like, immediately I'm like, we're not vacation compatible. I don't mind going to cold places at all anymore. I'm definitely a tropical girl, but I really don't mind the cold. It's just the fact of like skiing is just not my thing. Being cold for that extended, like that cold for an extended period of time, I just don't know if I could do it. It wouldn't excite me anyway, and I would probably do it if I really liked them. I'll be at the bar. Okay, you can ski your life away. It's not a deal breaker, but I know right then what to expect on like our vacation plannings moving forward. Not necessarily make it or break it, but really just, are you going to enjoy traveling with this person? Do you have the same mindset when it comes to traveling? Are you more of a budget friendly kind of traveler, or do you like to like ball out? Like where do you like to stay? Are you a hostel kind of person, or are you like a resort kind of person? I need to know the details. Get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about it, because if we're not vacation compatible at all, and I'm not willing to go on the full opposite side and do what you want to do, like if they're like, oh, I love being in hostels, like whatever, open to it, but I'm like, that's not my ideal vacation. And again, it's not a deal breaker, but it is something to keep in mind, because traveling is very important to me, and I want to travel with my person. And if they are on the complete opposite side of the spectrum of what they're expecting on vacation, we may just not be vacation compatible, and that's kind of maybe going to cause some issues down the line. Next question: what do you like most about your job? And guys, I cannot tell you, every single date I've ever been on has asked the question, well, what do you do for work? And actually, maybe not every date. I've actually been on dates where they didn't ask it until like the fourth day. They're like, what do you even do? I'm like, did you even get to know me at all? Which maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they just don't care about that. What do you like most about your job? I think this is important for women especially to ask, because yes, maybe you're asking this after what do you do for work, but if you're asking the question, what do you like most about your job, they're either gonna be like, I fucking hate my job and I want to get out of it. And if they're unhappy, like that unhappy in their jobs, I can guarantee you they're probably not in a space where they can fully give you the time and effort of showing up as the best person that he can be in a relationship, period. A guy that's miserable in his career is not going to focus on building in a relationship. Like, that's just not the case. If a guy is unsure about his career too, and it doesn't really know which direction he wants to go in, if he's uncertain in this area of his life, you gotta understand, I think their egos are really tied